Right. So like yesterday we were talking about, okay, for this user, which is C Perez 38, based on some of the information I shared yesterday, you were kind of thinking, oh, maybe they don't have this filled in somehow, right? Or even this other one.
Right.
So I didn't end up checking this area because I think that was kind of like for students, it's less of an issue because that part of the process is all automated, right? Um, the separate script that I kind of was sharing with you guys, though, that I built as a checker, that one was weird because this area, which should always be filled in, was blank for about 8 users, which was just weird. Like it was just weird because that shouldn't ever happen. Um, but yeah, when I pull up her account here, she should be part of some other groups here. And actually, I think for the students, I don't think I'm making use of, let me see. So um, we definitely have people in the power users group because that's where people get that permission. But let me see if I also have them. Yeah, so I didn't make use of that one. And I didn't make use of that one either. So in reality, compared to staff, right? On the staff side, we make use of both light and the power users because we're putting folks in them manually. But since all students automatically get like what's essentially that light license, it it's not really a factor on the student side. So we really just have to keep track of who's an active student and who's not, and then updating this power users group to only have the active students. Um, and there's a process that does that. So the next step, I guess, which I haven't checked yet, would be, let's say, logging into the password reset tool here, because this gives me a quick view into whether or not they're registered for classes. So if I pull them up this way, I could see the last time that they attended was back in 2000. Okay. So I don't have any, it doesn't look like they're registered for any more classes. And if they're not registered for classes, that means they shouldn't be in the power users group. And before we kind of started on the Zoom here, I was starting to take a look and I kind of saw this other issue. So this is something else I'll want to take a look at. But I pulled up the student here in Office 365 because basically what you're trying to figure out is like, well, don't why can't they log in? Because that was what happened when I tested it, and the way Isabel was describing it was that when the student logs in, it just goes back to the login page, but it didn't have an error. It didn't show anything like that. Uh, so here we have the license, and then here it still says that we are preparing a mailbox for the user. So when I see this, it usually means to me that maybe there's an issue with Office 365 itself. Like maybe they're having trouble provisioning mailboxes. Um, so that's where the service health area here in Office 365 could be handy. And maybe there's something here. And actually, there is one right here. Admins are experiencing delays provisioning mailboxes for new users. So in this case, I would probably make the safe assumption that this is a Microsoft issue at this point. And once they sort out things on their end, that new student should be fine. Um, and actually, that's going to be probably what I tell Isabel now that I see this because I hadn't come to this part to check it yet. Um, the other part, though, that was a little bit concerning was this part with the sync errors, because this is kind of making an indication that we have some sort of overlap. So it seems like Evelyn's email is somehow also included in Sebastian's proxy addresses. So this isn't really PowerShell related, right? But we do have a handful of kind of little issues here. So I'm going to see if I could pull up this student, which is Islas or Syslus4. Syslus4, let's see. And these proxy addresses are hidden under this attribute editor area, so I have to do it this way. So yeah, interestingly, we have, this kind of weird situation where, and more than likely, as I'm, thinking through how this could have occurred, um, more than likely it is a PowerShell issue, right? Like there's probably just some weird edge case that cropped up, and now we have multiple ones overlap. So maybe let's say it was looping through the records, and maybe when it got to this other user, it still had the old values from the previous iteration of the loop, and maybe that's how this occurred. That's a theory at this point, right? And it's hard to verify because I can't easily like rerun and recreate the same situations that it occurred in. So thankfully, it doesn't look like it's 1,000 users are affected, but that's a possibility of how it happened.
Yeah,
So,
so how do you know how many are affected? Would you know?
well, just here it seems to only list like 3 or 4
Oh.
people. So yeah,
Oh, I see.
yeah. But it kind of seems like it worked around it, because like here it kind of says removed automatically on the right. So it's just kind of like, it was like, I don't care about that. Like, it just kind of seemed like it was able to somewhat proceed okay. But since it's essentially bad data that we're providing into Office 365, I don't think this error would go away until it's corrected. So so all I'm going to do here is just double check like which G number is which. So this is not the right user though. So E Baltazar. So they have 780.299. And so 78299 would be what we delete, and E Baltazar one. Okay. So 299. This is the other user. Yeah. So take out that one. And this is another one of those situations where it's just doing things carefully, right? Like making sure, not that it would, well, it could break a little bit of stuff, but if you can, you want to be just as careful as you can in these situations to avoid problems. Okay, so that should take care of this person. And I'll just double check their G number, which should be that 297. Yeah. Okay. So that looks good. Okay. Apply. And just to check the other side of it, I'm kind of curious whether the Baltazar user has what they need. And it does look like they have the attributes, so that's good. And then I could proceed with the other ones, but that's basically what I'm going to be doing here, because each name is repeated twice. So it's because it's 2 different attributes basically that are there. And like these 2 with Baltazar and these 2 with Sebastian are related. And then probably these 2 with Lisbeth and Ashley are probably connected as well. So once I correct it in one, it'll correct both sides of it. And then that should eliminate all these. But these particular errors are really rare. Like this is the first one that I can recall at all that this has happened to. Yeah, or it may have happened once before and I just don't remember, but they're not common.
How do you refresh that list, or how often is it syncing?
So this is all based off of the schedule that the Azure AD piece runs on. And it used to be more like it was an hour, but I think with the newer version of it, it's more like every 30 minutes. So, and should give me an indication of when it last ran here. So if it runs on that 30-minute schedule, that means in about 7 minutes here, it'll probably run again. So, and that's how I would be able to come back and verify that that's, all cleared up. I guess since there's really only one other one, I could finish it real quick. Let's see
So for
here.
this, you're cleaning it up in the Active Directory.
Right. So I'm just doing some basic checks here in the password reset tool, but the actual cleanup has to occur on the AD side. So this is El Villarreal. So that's fine, but it's on this side. Okay. So she's okay. So it's actually the Ashley one that has the problem. Let's see here. So A Havens 1. So I need to take out that one. So she's 900. 901 is the other one. Okay. So take out 901. Take out that one. And take out that one. Now we're down to that. And that should hopefully. Okay. So maybe in about 5 minutes or so when that syncs up again, hopefully that clears up all these little errors. On the staff side, like Steven's in there, Jonathan's in there, Jose's in there, maybe even you're in there too, Jeff. But yeah, like nobody's really cared that much about the student side, unfortunately. So like that's kind of like a gray area that needs help in terms of, let's say if they're doing more active management on the staff side, then it would be nice if they also did that on the student side. But
So this is the AD, or this is the Office 365 for students?
correct. Yeah. So this only has student users. Because I did check like 4 or 5 different areas before, let's say I got to that screen where I saw this advisory, which kind of more clearly points the issue towards being a Microsoft problem in this particular case.
So there's not a way to go in and mask to be that student, to log in as that student to know what they're seeing, right? Other than changing the password, I guess. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Like, so Isabel definitely, she shared it in this email, which isn't typical, either. But probably because she had just reset it, maybe, as a way to test it, as that, as that maybe being the cause. Because I'm pretty sure the student had already tried a bunch of times, and then they probably came to A&R, and A&R is like, well, let's reset your password again and see if that does it. And then that probably, obviously still didn't work. So they're just kind of in limbo right now,
right,
with that account. But in the end, it does look like, this is probably just an issue on Microsoft's end. They're having trouble provisioning the mailboxes, and it's just in a holding pattern kind of situation.
okay.
Which again isn't typical, right? This is a big service, so occasionally they do have problems, but at least for the most part, that they'll be resolved relatively quickly, even though this one seems like it's been a while, because going from noon till now is a decent amount of time, to not have a resolution just yet.